All right, we have the adoption of the agenda as our first item of business tonight.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you both. There's no further discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have 2 sets of minutes to approve this evening. If anyone has a motion in regards to those.
I reviewed and had no comments on the October 15th meeting, but I wasn't present at the other one, so I don't want to say anything about that.
So it sounds like a motion to approve the October 15th minutes. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Any further discussion on the October 15th minutes? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And then we have left the minutes from the Chester Gap outreach meeting.
I move to accept these minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Ritter. Do I have a
Well
second?
done, actually. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, that gets us through our minutes and on to our advertised public hearing this evening, the transient lodging amendments. If you wouldn't mind to cue those up for us, please, Ms. Summers.
Sure. The Planning Commission has been working on this for a very long time. This past February, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the amendments to transient lodging and tabled it after hearing from the public and their comments. The Planning Commission then went back and revised it. The board has also reviewed this draft as well. I'm not going to go through all the amendments all over again, but I'm just going to hit the highlights. There was amendments to the definitions, such as camp and campground, RV, and travel trailer. The Planning Commission in this draft did try to make it cleaner with a conference center, with lodging and without lodging, along with reorganizing the uses in the use matrix in 17036. Another item that was addressed was not allowing some of these uses in a conservation zoning district, such as an RV park or a conference center or country inn, but felt that some with less impact, such as a tent campground, could apply for a special exception. Amendments were made to the supplemental regulations for such uses as the campgrounds, the country inns, with such amendments regarding the minimum acreage, the grade requirements, setbacks to provide for buffers. And this has been advertised and been available to the public, the draft.
Ms. Summers. So at this time, I would open the public hearing on the transient lodging amendments. This is the public's opportunity to speak on these amendments. So I'll open that public hearing now. If you have anything to say in regards to this matter, please approach the microphone and state your name and the district in which you reside. Anyone wishing to speak? Ms. Hunt?
Karen Hunt, Jackson District. There's been some welcome improvements to the proposed language as it's gone along the way. I did have some questions regarding the language referencing tourist homes. Our current ordinance requires a tourist home be rented in its entirety to a single party of guests, and we are now proposing that instead of requiring it to be rented in its entirety, as in one dwelling structure, that a transient lodging use could now be located in the same structure as either other residential, a single-family dwelling, or commercial use that does not already include transient lodging. And for reference, that would be lines 58 through 63 in the draft. There are different building code requirements for single residential, commercial, and for multifamily residential uses. Per our building office, if a tourist home were to be located in a commercial structure, that did not have that type of prior use, an engineer would need to design what would be required to meet the building code. And we have different permitting requirements for multifamily residential, like duplex and apartments. And so if we change our ordinance to permit consideration of transient lodging units, tourist homes, in what was originally built as like a single-family residence or commercial building, how would we retroactively address this? There would be some additional requirements if we expand our tourist home, ordinance to allow this. And I'm just wondering if we're opening a can of worms here. Currently, if someone has an older residential structure and they want to turn it into a tourist home, when it's rented in its entirety, we don't have to consider implications of, for example, separate entrance requirements or fire separation, like that's required in like a duplex or an apartment, because it's essentially still being used as a residential use in its entirety. With a single residential structure, we've been confirming the septic capacity with the health department, and generally that's based on the number of bedrooms. And if we were to permit conversion of commercial space for a tourist home in a commercial structure, I'm just wondering what considerations, would there be? There may be zoning considerations, like if that was in a commercial zoning, would it be residential use in a commercial? There would be building code considerations per the building official. I remember years ago when the Castleton Festival was in full swing, there was an increased interest in the county in bed and breakfast applications, to capitalize on the flow that we were getting here. And one residence on Viewtown Road wanted to convert their home that they were doing really multiple rentals, but they wanted to get a B&B. And there had been unpermitted renovations there, an undersized septic drain field, and a bunch of other stuff that came up. And what John McCarthy in the building office, then one of their considerations was if we're granting permits for the public to come in and, rent space, do we as a county, we kind of have to assure there's a public expectation of safety when we, as a county, essentially bless these activities with a permit. And there were discussions in that instance about retroactive building inspections and the requirement of like installed hardwired smoke detectors just based on the, stuff and the age. And it ultimately didn't happen, but it was pretty messy. And I'm just wondering if in the interest of trying to do one thing, we're creating unintended consequences. And if we want to be inviting that kind of situation where there might be conversions of prior residential and commercial uses. So, that's my thought on that. And then for 10 campgrounds, our current ordinance limits occupancy to 2 weeks. And I was just wondering what the rationale is for extending that to 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Anyone else wishing to speak on this topic? All right, if no other members of the public wish to speak on the transient lodging amendments, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and look to, I'm sorry, Anita.
Anita Ramos, Hampton District. I had not heard anything from Ms. Sant about what she was going to say, but I got to agree with her 100%. And I do vaguely remember that case back with John McCarthy. It is a can of worms because you're creating something that wasn't there before, so we'd have to kind of start over on some things. That's my thoughts on it right now, is that should be changed, set back, gotten rid of. The other thing is there's a section in there about recreational vehicles and motorhomes. And the term properly, as I've said before, for the, quote, motorhomes is manufactured homes now. That's what's being used by the industry. So I hate to have us use a term that's going to fade out. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I don't want to miss anyone again, I'm so sorry. All right, if no one else would like to speak on this, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and look to my fellow commissioners for comments.
You know, I was wondering, so what would be the difference between the tourist home where they are renting part of the single unit? What's the difference between that and transient lodging? So transient lodging in which guest rooms are occupied for less than 30 consecutive days.
So, and my understanding is tourist homes are one of many forms of transient lodging. So it's a category in the case of transient lodging. Transient lodging is anything less than a 30-day rental, and one of those is tourist home. And now, how that has bearing in the regulations, I'm not sure. I don't know that we have anything specific or different about the category. I think it's just an organizing principle.
But however it is that we treat transient lodging, wouldn't it address the issue of renting out part of your home as a tourist home?
Well, only if we put transient lodging. I think, let's see, it's transient lodging, a separate line.
I don't think
64.
it's in the definitions only, though. I think it's not in the table.
So.
Was it changed to definitions?
Question to me is, what value is defining transient lodging serving anymore? But it's
That's
sort of a
yes,
vestige.
that is the question.
The 30 days.
That's the question.
But we define things, I mean, it's been around for so long, I would miss it, it seems, if it were gone. But that to me is maybe the question. I don't know, do you have an answer to that? Is there a separate use of that term anywhere other than in the definition? I guess I could search for it.
When we talk about transient lodging, which is what we consider, short term versus what long term would be.
I mean,
I think you hit it on the head, Gary, when you said it's the whole thing. It's a broad category. It's like saying cattle than saying Hereford and Angus,
I'll take your word for that.
I mean, that's, simplify it as much as you can. It's just a whole category.
Yeah.
It's like saying housing and saying rampos and 2 stories and, it's a broad description.
One, I think it is useful because the public hearing is transient lodging amendments. So I think it is a useful term,
There you go. There's
and
a
we
good-
should define it somewhere if that's what we're using as our
Also,
heading.
if we have requirements for transient lodging, then it would apply to the tourist homes, that's all. I mean, if there are categories.
If there are to the extent, as I'm not haven't thoroughly, to the extent that there are general requirements for all forms of transient lodging, they would
Right.
apply to tourist homes. But I'm just not sure there are any in the current ordinance.
Well, I would just say, just to recap, cleaning up this language was to accomplish a few things. We had the eco-village application in a partial conservation zoning, as I remember, that created an uproar and a courtroom full of people. And so when you have an application that elicits that kind of response, that comes to an end because it's voluntarily withdrawn by the applicant, that to me was an eye-opener that we ought to do what we want to see or spell out what we want to see instead of having standards that invite applications that will draw people out to that extent. We ought to have standards that when people submit an application that follows the standards, they have a reasonable expectation for approval. So some of this was in reaction to that. The other item that has been a nagging detail was not allowing tourist homes on unpaved roads, but allowing transient lodging uses with much higher intensity on dirt roads was not a standard across the board and left us vulnerable to having that overturned. And we'd even had people submit a request to change that verbiage, which was very unpopular and voluntarily withdrawn, if I remember correctly again. And so again, if people feel so strongly about it, we ought to align what's on the books to match what expectations should be. And then the other items in terms of 1 unit per building, and then compatible with commercial uses, those ideas align with what we had seen happening throughout the county. In particular, with the approval on the winery in Wakefield District that we felt was compatible with that commercial use and allowed, and some requests that we thought were reasonable, or could be reasonable. And I believe you all had an approval up in Chester Gap that is part of somebody's home in the basement, a young lady, I can't remember her name. So many of these changes are a reflection of what we've seen playing out throughout the county, and an attempt to capture norms and to align those in the text, so people would understand what truly they could expect when they submitted an application. And I hope that's helpful, because sometimes things do last longer or take longer to get completed than we think they will, and we lose sight of sometimes why we even started them in the first place. But to me, these are all important touchstones in my time on the board and with you all on the Planning Commission, and in particular, the unpaved road, aligning that standard so we're not vulnerable to seeing developments on back roads that we don't want to see, and having a lot of traffic in areas that aren't designed to accommodate those uses. So I hope that's helpful, and I'm glad we were able to get these completed, and I hope you all will find them worthy of passing along to the Board of Supervisors. In terms of little things like, why did we change campgrounds to 30 days? I think because it falls under the subheading transient lodging, and tourist homes have a 30-day period. And so I think we did that again to align the language and keep that kind of common denominator. And I believe the travel trailer manufactured home language reflects the language that the Board of Supervisors had referred to us.
Yeah, I believe the manufactured is a reference to mobile homes, not motor homes. So I actually think we got it right.
Yeah, I think it's in good shape, and it's been reviewed, if I remember correctly, by the county attorney. Mm-hmm. So we should be in good shape on that, and I thank you all for bearing with me. It's always odd that these things, which elicited such response from the county residents as piecemeal items, when it comes to fruition of wording that will solve the issues, there's not really a reaction. But this is important work, and I hope you all keep sight of that too.
Can I comment on that?
Absolutely.
I totally agree with those remarks, and I would add that the lack of a presence here, I think, is a reflection of what we're doing, and the fact that our eagle-eye citizens, who are really, I think, very helpful at scrutinizing these things, couldn't find too much to take exception to. And I agree that 2 weeks versus 30 days, why wouldn't you allow somebody to stay in a tent 3 weeks if they were so inclined? Is it really changing anything with respect to the use? So I'm totally good with that. The one matter that was raised that I don't think you commented on is the tourist home whole or entirety. I think it's a good point in that, how are we going to look at the building in these other cases where it wasn't originally residential use? And I think the answer in most cases is we would look at that under the general standards, because they still require a special exception permit. The
Right.
exceptions to that would be in the commercial zone where it's by right, so we wouldn't have a shot at it. But in that case, I think there'd still be probably a building activity that would address some of the building hazard safety stuff, which really generally isn't our purview as planning and use body anyway. So again, I feel like it's a good point. I feel like it's addressed for the residential and agriculture in most of the properties that we see. And I'm prepared to accept it in the context of the commercial places where it's by right.
I think that provides some neighboring property owners a little protection too, knowing that somebody's there as opposed to an empty house that people from out of town are doing whatever they want in. And Richmond was pushing, they were going that way, but they were making it mandatory that it couldn't be a standalone. It had to have somebody because of the trouble. Kind of an absentee owner type of thing going on. My only point, or my only thing I want to bring up in this whole thing was tents. The only permanent structures allowed are a single house occupied by the resident owner or manager, both facilities, picnic facilities, other structures that are usual and customary for the use of tent campers. The only permanent structure? I mean, we're allowing this in ag and commercial. And I think ag's got buildings that might be permanent and plenty of room for camping. Are we?
Could we have a line, Brian? Do you have a line?
194.
Thank you so much.
I think I want to exclude agricultural buildings in there. Am I misreading this?
So they would still be required to get a special exception. And then in that context, they could have all of these buildings. And then would agricultural buildings still be allowed, Ms. Summers, because they're by right in agriculture?
So we're saying the only permanent structures that actually involve a tent campground are these. Is that what we're saying?
I think so, I think that's what we're
So,
saying.
and
What did you
your
want it
question
to
is,
say?
what if there's a barn? or-
Yeah. Silo,
Yeah. Well, that's,
other farmhouses,
I mean, I would say if it's already a.
no tent campgrounds at Eldon Farms,
I mean, I would say,
because they have too many houses. Go ahead.
are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say if it's an ag property and they have ag buildings, farm buildings, barns, I mean, that's a permitted use, I wouldn't see where that would be a problem with this.
Okay.
Because this is about that use of the tent. This is sort of inherently about the tent campground
Right.
part.
These are standards for the special exception.
Correct.
So only pertaining to tent campground activity.
So if somebody bought a piece of property, wanted to obtain a special permit, say the property is vacant, and they came in and applied for a special exception,
They
you
can
know,
build a bath
this would
house.
already tell them, okay, well, you can't build a bunch of like little cabins you're gonna call tents. You can have a house, you can have your tent, you know, it lays out what to expect.
What about geodesic eco-village structures?
Well, that's
The pre-existing structures are, that's not what we're talking
right.
about.
I guess if it's pretty,
I mean, or you could put it in there,
exclusive of.
exclusive of by right, already existing permitted by right structures or something.
We could just lead with that. Other than existing by right structures, the only permanent structures allowed are a single, would that
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
add that in the beginning?
In there, yeah.
With the exception of existing by right structures, the only permanent structures allowed, which implies new, are single-family occupant, resident, et cetera.
Thank you.
Well, why would they, just to play devil's advocate, why would they have to be existing? Why couldn't they just, I mean, if they're putting a tent campground on the farm, why couldn't they build a new barn?
Well, they could, but they wouldn't have to come in for that, so that would inherently not be part of
Okay.
That's what
I
I'm
get
saying.
what you're saying
We're only
now.
dealing with what's there, and so if they later build a barn, we have no.
It's by right.
We have nothing to
It's
say
okay.
about that.
Got it.
That's my view.
Got it. So is that agreeable to everyone, that addition?
That's good.
With that, I don't know if others want to comment, I'll hold off, but. Well, hearing none, I will move that we recommend, or pass this on to the board with the recommendation of approval with the slight edit as previously discussed with respect to existing structures on tent campgrounds.
Thank you, Mr. Light. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ritter. Is there any further discussion?
I got a question. I guess when you look at line 229, minimum 3,000 square feet and acreage is 20 acres minimum and no more than 3 campsites per acre. So somebody comes in with a site that's 20 acres, what size? Is that, how do we calculate the density? Is that a permission for 60 campsites? 20 acres times 3 per acre? Is that, they allow a maximum density of 60 and using their 3,000 square foot? Or is it?
The 3,000 is scratched out, is that still relevant?
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, it's
That's
scratched
right. So there's no,
The only requirement on that is the acreage at this point.
so they can do 60 campsites, is that right?
Well, I don't think, unless it's repeated elsewhere, we no longer have that each campsite shall include 3,000
But
acres.
on
Is that
five,
later?
on 228, we say 3
Oh, I
per
see,
acre.
3 per acre, I
So-
see. So then, there you get your
So
60.
they get 60?
60, yeah.
Well, you have setbacks.
Yeah, maximum.
If you're gonna
Sounds
cram
like
them
a
all
maximum
together.
of 60.
Go for it.
Suppose they got 5 acres of floodplain. How's density calculated?
I think campsites are often on floodplains.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Texas, wasn't it?
Not fun. I think those were actually permanent structures and not tent.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
No, but I mean, I think that is,
That's how interpretation is, 60?
well,
Yeah.
that's how I
3
would,
per acre?
that's how I would interpret it.
Okay. Somebody will go back to the minutes one day and read this.
Do you think?
Line 206.
Line 206. Density shall not exceed 4 campsites per acre. Okay, well, that seems a bit inconsistent with,
that's for tents.
Yeah, that's for tent campground.
oh, I see,
The other was under additional stuff.
recreational vehicle sites.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
Okay. I'm fine, so, thank you. Ready to call the vote, Madam Chairman?
Well, I think calling it out like that, we ought to look that it's only a special exception in agriculture and highway commercial. It's permitted in commercial general. I mean, because that's really where the rubber hits the road, is not just what the language is, but where the language is.
Yeah.
So you're not directing it to conservation, you're directing it to ag and highway commercial, which I don't think there's many 20-acre parcels in highway commercial.
So,
I mean, if you don't like the number, we can change the number.
I don't think you want to use up your highway commercial as a campground.
No, I don't think we do either.
I was just looking at density. That's the only question I have, whether it's a 20 acre, 50 acre, or whatever. I just wanted to know how to interpret the density. Even if it was 5 acre. You know, just wanted to see what the interpretation was. And that question was answered.
All right. Does anybody have any additional comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thanks very much. That takes us on to the next matter for the evening, public comment. Anyone that would like to speak, please, on any number of topics, please come to the microphone and address your comments to the commission. All right, going once, going twice. If no one would like to speak publicly, and the only chance to speak publicly for the remainder of the meeting, I will close the public comment period and we will move on to special exception 25-08-01 for Mr. Parrish, the division of land.
Madam Chairwoman, I would like to continue to
Oh, that's
recuse
correct.
myself
Thank
from
you,
this
Mr. Light.
discussion. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, Ms. Summers.
As we all know, last month, the planning commission, held a public hearing on this application. They heard from the public, closed the public hearing, and then they ended up tabling the application and requested additional information. One thing was a letter by soil scientists revalidating the previously approved drain field sites. That has been provided and attached to BoardDocs, and it was revalidated. The survey plat being updated with the 50-foot right-of-way to that back second lot, that has been done and attached to BoardDocs. And then an engineer to determine any impact or requirements to cross over to that rear lot, for that stormwater easement. A memo has been added to BoardDocs and provided to the commission, basically saying a road is possible, but if any structures like pipes or bridge abutments, etc., are needed to be placed in the easement, then the easement would need to be revised again.
You want to start comment now?
Yes, whenever you're ready, Mr. Henry.
I think what Mr. Parrish did in the last 30 days added a lot of clarity and definition and quality to the presentation, to the proposal. And I think that the information that the drain fields were not impacted by the construction of the road and they were not altered or damaged is good to verify. The engineer stated the issues of crossing the stormwater dam and what would have to be done there potentially and later at that time. And I think that's good awareness for any potential buyers of the property and users of the property. So I think the public is aware now of more information on this site, and it goes a long way. Now, I think it fulfills my questions and needs from last month that I had on the site. And I guess today there was a flurry of activity generated by a letter came in that was reviewed by multiple people on staff that basically said where we were is correct,
Yes.
as I understand.
Yes, sir.
So I think I'm where I was last month. The only thing I would say is that I think this survey and this letter from Richie should go hand in hand in the approval, whether they can be recorded as a two-page document together, or whether this language can be put on the plat as a supplement, just to create a chain of title of information on this property for future use. That's the only thing I would say. So, looking forward to what other board members have to say about it.
Fellow commissioners?
Well, I think it's a tough piece of land. And I think having all the public disclosures is probably sufficient, is different. Were you able to get a waiver from the bank for the,
You know, hospital?
you know, get a hospital?
A verbal, but nothing in a, and actually, two doctors that, so that's really nice to get. This whole thing's been a real learning curve.
Yeah, I know it did.
Tommy, do you see any deficiencies here? Neil? Tommy Atkins?
No, well, I guess I just have but this is just a concern for a potential buyer.
Yeah.
I think a potential buyer really needs to be aware of the issues with the setbacks, the drainage, and reserve drainage for sewer, and the road and everything. How much then, if when the buyer wants to, what size building is the buyer gonna want to put up? Can he fit it in to this with all these, with these restrictions? But you know, that's, but you Mr. Parrish has answered, you know, the other things that we were looking for, but I'm just saying a potential buyer.
It's not gonna be a huge building.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They better not go in with their eyes closed. That, you know, just if the commission and the board approves this, there still has to be a review of the plat and everything would be in there.
And then is it worth including the veto, the RCC section 170-69C1, which requires certain road access requirements? Or do we just believe that whoever's gonna buy the land's gonna have to just know that?
Well, I mean, I think you've hit on one of the two outstanding points in the staff report today, which is number 6, VDOT, which is one of the outstanding items, and then number 8, which I think that you alluded to, Mr. Atkins, which is in the course of approving this, are we creating unbuildable lots?
Right.
I think that is a valid concern. And we have seen, I mean, in my time on the board, I think it's come before the BZA and in front of the planning commission different times. There's one sort of infamous parcel at the base of Chester Gap that, you know, people buy and then they try to slice it up. And then
Right,
I think
exactly, that's
everyone
right.
figures out you can't do anything with it, and then they sell it to the next poor guy in line, who then goes through all the same gyrations only to realize that they can't do anything with it. And they sell it, you know, until I think it may have been finally bought by a neighbor or something and just added to their parcel. So those are the two outlying pieces of business for me on this application.
Well, and the question is who takes that burden, right? It's, do we pass it and then whoever buys it can't do anything with it, or?
I think there can be a building built on both of these. It's a question of the size.
Right.
And, I mean, that comes down to the due diligence of any user of these lots to determine the size of the building that can be built, whether from the standpoint of the drain field capacity or setbacks. And that's the two things that everybody addresses. And, you know, it could be a 900 square foot building, or it could be a 3,000 square foot building. It could be two-story to get more square footage, or, you know, something like that. So I one time created a big uproar in the town of Warrington. I bought a lot that didn't meet the setbacks. I was going to build a rectangular rambler on it. And I violated the setbacks by 2 feet, and all the neighbors thought they won. So then I did the house 2 feet shorter on that one end and met the setbacks. And they thought I had bought the town council. So there's different ways to accomplish things. So,
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think we can guarantee to every person that, you know, that they can build a X square footage building. That's something they have to determine themselves. I think we have to determine the parameters, the reasonable parameters. Yes, the site perks. Yes, you know, there's a 50-foot right-of-way. And I think we've disclosed that there's a potential substantial cost factor in crossing this stormwater area.
Right.
That is made aware of now. And they have to come back with a site plan where they answer all these questions to us for a building. So, you know, the final burden is on the applicant to come back with a site
Right.
plan, whether it's doctors or pharmacists or whoever ends up using this land. So, you know, I mean, we can't do this work for somebody else, not, you know, ever. So. And we run into problems with the highway commercial lots all the time in Sperryville on setbacks and access and all these kind of things. So it's just something that exists with every piece of parcel.
We're breaking it up into 2 lots, or okay, are we, as the planning commission, saying that yes, it can, I mean, it can be done now, so later on, the owner, somebody buys it, and then they're like, well, you know, I bought this on good faith or whatever, that I could, and now it's not gonna, I mean, I know what Mr. Henry's saying, that, yeah, it's absolutely their due diligence or whatever, but after reading more of the answers, I actually got as clear as mud for me, so I'm worse now than I was, so and I still have the same concerns Ms. Smith pointed out, but I just don't know. I mean, I honestly don't.
I mean, I don't want to, I mean, we met last month, we reviewed the application, we asked for certain things, the applicant met what we requested. And I think at this point, that bar has been met.
I agree.
And now there are other additional details that have come to light that we are trying to navigate. And we could draft a motion recommending approval pending, details that would, meet the concerns expressed in item number 8. And we could add the language, about the condition referring to the quota requirement in number 6. And, basically note that and make that additional analysis part of the recommendation. You know, contingent upon that additional analysis, that it would result in 2 buildable sites.
Although the counter argument is that whoever buys those parcels, that's the person that needs to
Do the due diligence.
provide this information, right? Because right now, no,
I'm aware of the fact that I may be creating something that's not saleable, in
Yeah.
which case, and that's just, I've done all this for nothing, I realize that. But, that will only be determined when, the second drain field is identified, and the surveyor, identifies what's left for a building that meets the setback. And, so the soils engineer thought that it was possible, but that doesn't mean it is. So, I've gone this far in the process, so I'm aware of the fact that it may be for naught, but that'll be determined after, more, let's call it research, is completed.
So what are the setbacks for this zone here?
It's 50 feet from bank to lane, bank road, yeah.
But I'm more concerned about the side setbacks. Are we concerned about the front not meeting setbacks or the back not having setbacks in buildable area? Which one are we most concerned about? Are we concerned about the front or the back? Or both?
The front's a little bigger, but it's also burdened by the drain field from the bank.
right.
Yeah, so that's another issue. Like I say, there's no way of knowing until we identify the second drain field and get the surveyor to figure out what's left. And if there's not enough, it may be a very small, like I say, it's going to be a smaller building, not a bigger building, depends on the use. What somebody wants it for.
So the bank's drain field is not right there, correct? Down front?
The bank drain field is toward the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you got the drain field behind there. And then
Right.
you got a drain field on this other lot.
Right.
So what are you talking about another drain field for?
Well, if it's under 5 acres, you need a backup.
A reserve area?
Yeah, reserve. Right. You don't need to make it, but you need to have
Yeah,
space.
reserve,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So that's an issue. And I was completely unaware of that when I started this process. And like I say, this has been a real learning experience.
So what's the setback? Commercial,
For the general commercial overlay is 50 feet.
all the way around?
That's what it said.
All buildings shall have a 75-foot minimum setback from adjacent non-commercial, and then 50-foot, and then 50-foot all, the rest of the way.
Rest of the way.
Yeah.
So on the back lot, okay, I guess Jenkins, Clark here, Michael Clark, I guess that was the Susie Babcock property that she owned at one time, the house. Right. That runs up to 211. I think that's on highway commercial. I think it was advertised that way when it was sold.
Yeah, I think that one is.
Yeah, so that would be a 50-foot
And you got Al Rignery on one side, that's.
Yeah.
That'd be 75.
Yeah.
So that would make it 75 and 50 in between. It's 125 off of 478. So that leaves 350 width. It's basically 194 wide, and you take 50 feet off of each side of it. I think the Paul Baldwin, that's commercial, right? The
No, I
shoulder.
don't think so. Where the house is?
Paul Baldwin.
The son built the house?
I don't,
Hang on, sorry, I mean,
But the drain field can go in.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter about the setback, it's just the building.
the house, I'm just trying to determine the house.
yeah, so the one in behind there,
Baldwin, is-
61, lot 61,
yeah.
yep, that's ag.
So that's 75 and 50, 125 again off of 194, leaves 125, leaves all 68 feet. So it's 68 by 350 roughly buildable area there. So, you know, and then the front one, you know, it's wider in places, and it seems like it would be, a buildable area would be,
Get toward the back,
yep.
yeah. I think the front was okay.
So, you know, yeah. So the front is gonna be the toughest part for the buildable side. But if you took if you ran into a problem, you would remove that lot line and merge it back together, and then you would have another 100 feet there of buildable area, the width of the site, because you got rid of that boundary line. So if you ran into problems.
Yes, again.
So last month, we were ready to approve this thing, and I threw the requirements out and stopped everything. So Chris came and got these things done, and so he seemed to satisfy the requirements. So I'm gonna go now, but everybody else seems to be a stop. So the shoes went on some other feet now. We can pass this on and let the board shuffle it for a December Christmas present to them.
Maybe January,
Oh, January.
yeah, sorry.
I think it's got hair, it may have hair on it, just have a different location now. Steph. What do you want to do, Steph? We gotta go.
I want to add I would like to add that at least that the road requirements be reflected in the special exception. And, I think I'm gonna let whoever the buyer is, deal with the septic issues. Okay.
I'm having a hard time getting behind it. I know Mr. Harris did exactly what we asked him to do. And I just have more questions now than I did before, and I mean, I'm trying to be consistent, and I just don't, I mean, he's done everything we required of him, and I feel bad in that respect, but, I don't know that I can get behind it as is. That's me.
Tony?
But I guess I'm just concerned about the remaining building space, but, and I guess if we're saying that that's to be totally left up to the buyer, to be aware of that. And then, but I guess in some respect, I also feel like, could we be misleading a potential buyer? Because if this board and then board of supervisors approves this, yeah, is that potential buyer is then gonna say, well, everything's a go? There's nothing else could prevent me from building in there.
It's just gonna be the size
Of the
of the
building.
building, because somebody can't go in there and build a humongous building, they're gonna end up with a relatively small
Yeah.
building. So it's gonna restrict, the buyers to that.
Okay, if you take, we've determined roughly that there's a reasonable area on the back lot, if y'all follow my math. If you take the front lot, the road going out is 50 foot, so that pretty much is the setback on that side, which would be the north side. So it's a 50-foot setback from lot 2. So if you go out 50 foot from there, and the Jeremy Christopher, is that a commercial or ag parcel? 63C.
That's ag.
Ag,
They wanna be commercial.
okay. So if it's ag, which
63C is general commercial.
is commercial, so it's 50-foot setback there. So it's 50-foot setback from that line, 50 foot from the lot 2, so that's 100 feet. And that line that runs down there is 329 feet. So that leaves 229 foot there, okay? And so you're 75 from the back, 50 from the front, and you touch the right-of-way. And there's approximately, you're taking 125 feet, you're down there 50, and you're coming back to that point, so 176, and you come off of there about 75. So you got roughly an area that's about 229 by 100 feet that is buildable. So 229 times 100 feet. I should be able to do that in my mind, but I can't right now.
It's 23,000 square feet.
23,000, so you got a half an acre buildable area, which includes the drain field. The drain field is gonna have to be adjusted or something.
Yeah.
So that drain field is 10,000 square feet. So you gotta do a reserve, it's gonna have to move outside that area. So you maybe got a 10,000 square foot area that you can build a quarter of an acre out of the, out of the whatever we're calling it, 2.8 acres. So that's how big you roughly built on scientific. Go ahead.
Well, some back of the napkin math there, Al.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It is good.
That was good.
I was impressed.
Yeah.
So that's enough for a building, you know, it's just not a big one, but it's not. It's gonna be I project it's gonna be some type of office anyway, roads and doctor's office or something else, an accountant, I knows what. There's just so few commercial lots in this county. It's, just think there'll be a use for it at some point in the future.
Well, Al, you want to make the motion?
Al, another question.
I'm sorry?
I said I have another question. What about the parking area? But, for the
The
building?
parking area is gonna be dictated by the size of the building. So
Okay.
the smaller the building, less parking.
Okay, but where,
And the location of the building.
but you can't put no parking at E2, which is that easement up there. And you can't put no parking on any of the drain fields, so.
But you can put parking, outside the setback areas. Like between the two drain fields, you could have parking there that's outside the buildable area. Right? You can put parking in the setback areas, right?
I think it says parking, there are setbacks for parking, I thought.
Yeah.
It's in that GCO highlight included in the, yeah, so that's got to add that 40 foot for parking too.
Got a 40-foot setback. So you pick up 10 feet of the setbacks on all sides, you know.
Building's getting smaller and smaller.
Well, you're not gonna, what's, over how many feet you need a parking place? Is it 250,
Oh, I don't know.
300?
It depends what the use is.
Yeah. Usually it's like 300 square feet of building space for parking requirement. So you may have 10 requirements. I don't know, something like that. So if we pass it on to the board, they can put more stuff on it. Or maybe Chris can sell it between now and then, if somebody wants the whole thing, like in the drawing. So I'll make a motion that we pass this on to the Board of Supervisors with the recommendation of approval, subject to the plat that was presented with the 50-foot right-of-way, including the comments made by the engineer to be included
Yep.
on the plat. Comments made by Mr. Ritchie, P.E., be included onto the plat for consideration by the Board of Supervisors with recommendation of approval.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Ritter. Any further discussion?
Should we do the roll call?
We can.
Okay.
I would just harken back to, in what would build consensus for me, item number 6 in the staff's response today, a special exception could include a condition that refers to the code requirement, so it is not missed later. I think that's a reasonable request to embed in the special exception in the event that there is activity in the future, that we make sure that condition is met.
I think that's reasonable to include.
I agree.
Thank you, Ms. Ritter. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Is there any other discussion or interest in building consensus through additional language? All
I
right.
think that what you just added really clarifies everything, puts everything in there.
Well, I do think that, and I have to say as a board member, which I won't vote on this, I'll be off the board in January. I would like to see further analysis. I don't believe that I'm hearing a hark and cry for further analysis from my fellow commissioners this evening. But that will be the pleasure of the board at the first meeting of January. All right, let's have a roll call vote then. Ms. Summers, would you care to call them out for us, please?
Mr. Sherlin?
Aye.
Mr. Fisk?
Nay.
Mr. Atkins?
Aye.
Ms. Ritter,
Aye.
Mr. Henry,
Uh,
and Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
This kind of looks like one of those jackalopes that have horns on it.
What's that?
It kind of looks like one of these rabbits you see that have horns on it.
All right, so in case you're not familiar with how things go around here, Chris, we'll see you at the Board of Supervisors meeting in January. All right. That takes us on to the next item on the agenda, the electrical generating plant and facilities discussion.
The planning commission was asked to draw up a draft, drafted that, but since preparing the amendments, we did some checking, and reviewing other ordinances, and we wanted to definitely check with, REC. And after doing that, I passed out, an email, that everyone should have got today with the new definition of electrical substation. And also, one other item I wanted to mention, was in the additional regulations, probably want to allow the minimum yard to be waived by the Board of Supervisors for expansion of one of our existing substations, because neither of them, there's one in Sprayville and one in Flint Hill, neither of the current substations meet that 100 feet required setback.
Oh.
But we wanted to bring everybody, bring everyone this language, and it's up to you all to decide if you want to move forward with it to public hearing next month.
So what we received today would go into lines 33 through 35, is that correct? The highlighted area?
Yes, that should be.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that correctly.
Yes. The proposed language is an assemblage of equipment, structures, and enclosing fences for purposes other than generation or utilization through which electric energy is passed for the purposes of switching, voltage, transformation, or modifying its characteristics to meet the needs of the general public or one or more dedicated users. For the purposes of this chapter, this definition includes all associated control buildings and generally excludes battery energy storage systems unless strictly accessory to the substation function.
And can you get a comment on this from Ms. Pomeroy? This is pretty much what the language that was forwarded by PC, as I recall.
Which language specifically?
Well, there was the language about the electrical substation as an assemblage. The language that we're now voting on.
The definition of a substation.
The definition of a substation, my understanding was that it was now what the state code was, prescribed. That was our read of it, because it is very specific. Does that answer your question?
Well, I think to me, it clarifies the question, because I guess the question to me, and maybe this is what you're getting at, is where did this come from?
Yeah.
Is this,
So what got emailed today?
yeah, this
This is
definition?
what, after Gary spoke with REC, is what was recommended to kind of cover them and any of their future needs.
So this is our custom creation.
Right, because of like old, Dominion Power is different, each service provider can be different, and we wanted to ensure that we were meeting the needs of REC.
I mean, I don't have, I mean, I think you can parse this and make some sense of it, but it is far more convoluted
Yeah.
than the original definition. And I think it raises the question, if it excludes battery energy storage systems, which are usually proposed now with part of like a solar array, to me, it raises questions about whether now that pushes any kind of battery that would be added to this onto the energy generation side, and have we really considered that? Seeing this new definition, would like to consider where battery energy storage systems fit within the the solar requirements, because, I mean, if we're gonna make this realistic and it's really about sort of citing them, not just finding ways to prevent them from occurring, I think we need to understand that better, because those battery energy storage systems are what's making these things feasible and valuable in a lot of cases. So I feel like before I would want to sign on to this new sort of complicated one, I feel like we should have some more time to, you know, go back and look at it and understand one thing specifically, where best systems fit within our existing definitional structure, if not within the definition of a substation.
So what I think I hear you saying is that the the battery energy storage system aspect of this newly proposed definition, which we just received today, raises red flags for you, and you would like to see additional information that is already embedded in the ordinance and what we may need to add for further protection based on concerns for solar energy. Is that correct?
That's
And other
fair enough.
uses.
Yeah, that's reasonably captured what I'm saying.
But I almost, the definition proposed covers anything that REC would propose from their main transmission line running through the county that might not handle an additional substation feeding from the 138 kV over Thornton Gap or twin 500 kV lines, if it was to reduce voltage. I have no idea what this sentence means.
Could I address that a little bit?
Absolutely.
I'm no expert, but basically these substations are in the business of usually dropping voltage from high things that are make it efficient for transmission to lower voltage that makes it accessible to homes and businesses and drops it down. So I would have thought that just the arithmetic of the current definition would address those, because you're starting with anything above, let me get the language up so I don't stumble over it.
34.5.
Yeah, it's, you're reducing anything more than 34.5 kilovolts, which would certainly include 138 kilovolts or 500 kilovolts. So if it's going above those, to an electrical distribution system operating at or less than 34. Okay, so I think the issue is, if you're dropping it, say, from 138 to 80 for some reason, 80 is not below 34.5, so presumably you could be doing a partial step down from the high voltage of the transmission lines, and that we might recognize as a substation because it would require all the equipment, but it wouldn't meet this definition because it's not dropping it to less than 34.5. That, I think, feels like the problem.
Yes.
But I, A, don't know how common that would be, and B, don't know that this would necessarily fix it. Although this takes and this seems more general in that it's not taking into account in any way what the voltage characteristics are, which, you know, certainly makes it more general. Some of it's just the English of this. It's like, or modifying its characteristics took me a while to figure out, yes, I guess in the English language, that refers back to the electric energy that is passing through, so that kind of meets some grammatical merit, I guess. But needs of the general public, and I'm also not keen on the idea of generally excludes. I mean, that's a wishy-washy way to get it. I mean, does it exclude it or doesn't it exclude it? And what is that? So I don't know. I mean, just the wording of this strikes me as pretty convoluted, but I can't, that is evident. What I can't tell is if I really support the substance of it or not. It's just, I feel like we need a little more time with it.
Well, as we just received the definition today, and it's important to get it right, that is a reasonable request. Unless we feel like we can work through it tonight, which I don't get
think so.
that sense.
I would have to know, I would have to know more. It could take a little time.
And then I just did want to say, because we recognize Sarah in the who is here as a member of the audience, public, if anyone else would like to speak to this matter at this time, you're certainly welcome to comment publicly.
I would just say I had some thoughts prepared, but I think it's now gone out the window because if this has just been changed from this afternoon from what has been advertised for the last week,
Yeah.
that is an issue for me.
Yeah, I think we all kind of feel the same way.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take it to heart too much, Karen. So if there's no further discussion, it sounds like we're tabling this to next month. And is there a certain detail we want from staff other than battery language, or what else are we looking for if we're not happy with this?
I'd like to know PEC's opinion of this language.
Okay.
And if we just made this up, is there not an existing definition somewhere that's been tested that wouldn't serve our purposes, you know?
Well, Gary does say at the top that they have been reviewing other ordinances to see how they define the use. So the language came from somewhere, so maybe we could get those examples. Would that be helpful?
But I think Sarah was right, there has been a state change, right?
Well,
I read that someplace too. I don't know where.
I believe the change was several years ago, and we did submit several examples of existing language to staff, so.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what you all have been referencing, because is it not on the board? Okay, that explains why.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It was we all received it at 1:30 today. So it's not just news to you. It's also relatively fresh news for all of us.
You may have my copy.
I'll
if
keep
you-
it in mind.
if you want.
You keep yours here, you need yours.
Oh yeah, we all do have a copy. We might have enough here for everybody in the public if you would like one.
Okay, keep it.
So, so it sounds like if people have specific concerns that they would like further information on, please talk to, email Michelle so that we can start to run down these details, and we'll look to our friends at PEC for additional comment to hone this language with much appreciation. All right. So that takes us on to the next item of the evening. No new business. The general list of direction for zoning ordinance amendments from the board, which we're working on the electrical generating plants and facilities, so we're working through those. No subdivision applications, so we've got that checked off. Roundtable discussion.
Well, I'm worried about whatever's going to go on in Sperryville, and that maybe we should be looking at our subdivision ordinance and making sure it's updated.
Well, I mean, we can do that and put it on the agenda for December, if you all would like to take a look at it.
You mean specifically with consideration of the characteristics of that property?
Maybe that, and also I remember Mr. Curry saying that it wasn't in compliance, that the subdivision ordinance wasn't compliant with state law.
Well, that's, I think, takes us back to that one draft from the Berkeley group where theoretically they made changes that were intended to strictly bring it up to date with latest code. But even
But did
that
they
is
get
not-
to that?
I thought they gave us something, but it was,
I can't
it
remember.
was a lot of changes, and so I think that, as I recall it, there was a lack of comfort that what they had done was only that minimum which
Well,
is
that's right,
required
yeah.
to make it legally acceptable. That,
So
that's
after
my
the
rough
last
recollection.
subdivision amendments were adopted, staff is, we're continuing to review our subdivision ordinance, and we'll be coming back with,
Okay.
Oh, you haven't, okay. So,
we're already working on it,
but any timing about that? Or,
hopefully within the next couple of months.
And could we just maybe get an update on those next month? Is that sounds like what you're looking for,
Yeah,
Mr.
right,
Rivera.
exactly.
I don't
Well,
want to,
yeah,
I'm really
I
good
just-
at putting words in people's mouths
No, that's
tonight, I
good.
apologize. But I want people to, I mean, I think you raised a valid point, and I certainly have heard concerns. Sometimes I think it's premature and self-defeating to take up something before it's in front of us, or before an application has been submitted. But it is wise to be aware of things as they are unfolding in real time and do the work that we can. And I think most of us felt like we could have worked through that Berkeley group recommendation, but it was not the desire of the board to continue with that recommended work. So, any other discussion?
Well, all that reading and discussing of the electrical generating plant facilities got me thinking about the solar again. And I think that we need to take another look at that and put a cap on the amount of commercial, industrial solar that would be permitted. I think that might be more of a comprehensive plan discussion than just ordinances, but I got a feeling we're gonna be the ones that have to bear that burden when it starts coming down from Richmond, that we're gonna have to be green this, that, and the other. They're not gonna put solar panels on every rooftop and impervious surface in Northern Virginia. They're gonna have to go where the sun is. That's gonna be our green fields.
There's a lot of sun in parking lots. That's my opinion. And you could shade the cars with the solar panels, dual purpose.
Well, there do seem to be many articles being generated now about the compatibility of solar with agriculture, which
It's baloney.
Sure.
marks the beginning of a trend, or an attempt to begin a
It's
trend,
cute.
I would say. Yes,
It's cute.
I don't disagree with you, Mr. Shulman.
So Christine, remember we passed the zoning ordinance for solar in the county, and there's literally not even a few parcels that would qualify. It's so restrictive.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we did with the sludge. It's written such that nobody qualifies.
I'm still of a mind to cap it at 110% of our usage. We'll create enough electricity that Rappahannock uses in a year, no more. I say even 110%, we'll share it. And it's really not that much. I was surprised. REC was very friendly in sharing that information,
That's a great idea.
and it was not much. I was shocked.
Just one of your fields. Any household has the capacity to do it, to
Yeah.
supply for their house. You know, everybody can do it. But
All right. Anybody else have anything to say in the general public?
I will say just one thing, with regards to solar, something that I'm advising Culpeper County to do is to be very, very careful with tinkering with their solar ordinance right now, just because, we had a new We have a big shakeup coming down the pipe in Richmond.
Yeah.
And we don't know yet what that will bring, but we are very concerned that we are going to see the reignition of the discussion of removing localities' ability to overly restrict utility scale solar or deny utility scale solar projects. So I would just let that be known. We're advising everybody to try to be a little bit careful and not rock the boat too much when it comes to additional restrictions on solar, especially if it's not a pervasive use in the county right now.
Good information. Anyone else? All right. I did take your comments to heart, Mr. Henry, about the 3 per acre. And when I went back and looked at it, if I understand correctly, before it could have been as many as 13 per acre, right? Because it was just a 3,000 square foot minimum for campsites, or for campsites, right? So we've actually reduced,
Yeah.
greatly reduced.
But my question was, is that on the whole site size, whereby you may come in with, for example, a 50-acre site, which would say you can have 150, but on that 50-acre site, you may have land that's only suitable, you may only have 5 acres of suitable land. So how do you define it? You define it on the whole site or on the scope of the site that's going to be used? So that was my question.
Okay.
So we determined that it's on the whole site by our verbal interpretation so far. You know, if you have 100 acres of land, and you say you can have, it's zoned R1, you can have 100 houses in a perfect world. Okay, but then when you go in, you got 15 acres that's floodplain, 15 acres that's slope or whatever, and all these areas become now non-buildable. So do you now still have 100 or do you have 70? So that's what I was looking at.
Okay. No, that's a good point. That's a point well taken.
So-
and I'm glad you brought it out.
I'm glad you clarified it for me.
Well, and I'll be sure to pass it on to board supervisors. If needed, we'll revisit it.
Yeah, so.
All right. And if there's no other comments, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, and a second?
Thank
Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
you. It's really loud. So.